Hey everyone, my name's Forrest with Rocky Mountain School of Photography, and today we're going to talk about focus modes and drive modes and how you can use them together on your camera to get the best fast action photography. Now, these modes aren't just for fast action, but they are very commonly used by sports and action photographers to ensure that your camera is going to give you the best chance at getting sharp photographs throughout the action sequence. Let's start by talking about focus modes. Depending on your camera manufacturer, you'll either have 3 or 4 different focus modes. Most brands have 3, Canon is the one that's different that has 4. These main modes are single, continuous, and manual focus, with Canon adding an additional one which they call AI focus. Canon also doesn't use the traditional single and continuous names. They use something called one shot and AI Servo. So I'm going to put up a little comparison chart on the screen right now so you guys can see, and you can see kind of what your brand might call continuous, single, and manual. Obviously Canon with that extra little add-on there. So what do these mean? Well, manual focus is super straightforward. If you put your camera on manual focus mode, and sometimes that's a switch on your lens, sometimes it's a switch on the front of the camera, the lens will only focus if you twist the physical ring on the front of the lens. It's totally manual. It's great for tripod shooters who are going to be maybe shooting in the studio, shooting products, or maybe you're shooting out landscape photography, something where you're in a controlled environment, usually on a tripod, and getting perfect focus is of utmost importance. That brings me to single autofocus. Now, single autofocus means that when you push the button, whether that's on the front button or the back button, check out the video down in the description or up in the corner to learn more about back button focusing. But when you push either of those buttons, the camera is going to achieve focus. It's going to autofocus one time. And even if you continue to hold down the focus button, as soon as the camera finds its initial focus, it's going to stop searching. Now, this is great if you're shooting something stationary. The camera will focus, and if you continue to hold down the button, it's not going to keep trying to refocus. It'll focus once, and you'll be good to go. From there, you can take your photograph. The problem is if you're shooting a moving subject, say the subject is moving towards you or away from you, even if you continue to hold down the button, the camera's only going to focus one time, and very quickly the subject moving towards or away from you is going to move out of the focus range of your camera. So in those instances, you want to switch over to continuous autofocus. Canon calls that AI Servo. And on continuous or AI Servo mode, as long as you hold down the focus button, the camera will continually refocus on what's in your autofocus point, whether that's in the center or on the sides or wherever you decide to have it. This is made a lot easier with face detection autofocus, which is prevalent in most mirrorless cameras because it can keep the person's face sharp. And as long as you hold down that focus button, the camera will be continually refocusing on the subject. So it's really quite simple. Manual is manual focus. Continuous means as long as you hold down the button, it will continually focus. It's great for fast action sequences or whenever your subject is moving towards or away from you. And then lastly, single shot. That's sometimes called single, sometimes called one shot. That's Canon's name for it. But that just means as long as you hold down the button, it's only going to focus one time and then it's going to stop, even if you continue holding down the button. If you need it to focus again, you got to release your finger and push it again to get a fresh focus. That brings me to drive modes. Drive modes are very similar to focus modes. We really have 2. You have single and continuous. And some cameras also have continuous high and continuous low. All this is it's a control of not when you focus, but when you actually push in the shutter button to take the picture, how many pictures get taken. So if you simply tap the shutter one time, regardless of the mode, it's only going to take one picture. But if you hold down the shutter button, depending on what mode you're in, you're either going to get a series of images or just one. And that's the control between single or continuous. Continuous means the longer you hold down the shutter button for, the more pictures you're going to take. Again, useful for fast action situations. Single mode is simply one shot per shutter push. You can hold down the shutter for as long as you want. It's only going to take one photograph. Now, continuous low and continuous high are simply options for how fast your camera shoots those continuous images. So as an example, on my Fuji camera right here, if I'm on continuous high, that's somewhere around 10 frames per second, meaning the camera's going to crack off 10 photos per second as long as I hold down that button. And if I go to continuous low, that's going to be down around 3 to 5 photos per second. So this kind of depends on how fast the action is that you're shooting. Obviously, the disadvantage of a high shooting mode, a very fast continuous, is it's going to fill up your memory cards faster, and more than that, it's going to be a lot more footage to edit. You're going to have to go through all those pictures and find the best of the set. But if you're shooting something that's moving very, very quickly, I would always be on the fastest, highest continuous mode that you have. If you're shooting something a little bit slower, you might switch to continuous low. And if you're doing something like portrait images, I would probably put myself just on single. So really they go together. Usually if I'm on continuous focus mode, I'm also on continuous drive mode, whereas if I'm on one shot or single focus mode, I'm also on single drive mode. Hopefully you all found this video useful. If you did, let me know by hitting that subscribe button or the like button. Leave a question in the comment section down below if you have one, and I hope to catch you all in a future video.